and see what you're fighting for. Bloodlust and a holy war. Listen up, hear the patriots shout. Times are changing. In the end, the choice was clear. Take a shot in the face of fear. Fist up in the fiery light. Times are changing. Do you believe that you can walk on water? Do you believe that you can win this fight tonight? Look at the sky, see a dying star. White lies, it's a man on fire. Making love with the devil hurts. Times are changing. A thin line, the whole truth. The far right, the left view. Breaking all those promises made. Times are changing. Do you believe that you can walk on water? Do you believe that you can win this fight tonight? Do you believe that you can walk on water? Do you believe that you can win this fight tonight? Do you believe? Walk on water. 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 Do you believe? Oh, 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 oh. Do you believe that you can walk on water? Do you believe that you can win this fight tonight? Do you believe that you can walk on water? Do you believe that you can win this fight tonight? Walk on water. Walk on water.
Hi, Flatirons. It's so good to see you guys. If you guys want to stand and worship with us, we would love that. Let's sing this out.
I would stand condemned, but your love has paid the price. I fall to the depths, but you gave your life for mine, your life for mine. I once was defeated, but your spirit constantly. How could I retreat
spoke a word, you were singing over me. You have been so, so good to me. Before I took a breath, you breathed your life in me. You have been so, so kind to me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it. Still, you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Yeah. When I was your foe, still your love fought for me. You have been so, so good to me. Yes, you have. I felt no worth, you paid it all for me. Thank you, Jesus. You have been so, so kind to me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves a 99. I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it. Still, you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, no lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, no lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves a 99. I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it. Still, you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. How are the beautiful people of Flatirons today?
great to see you all and worship with you. Why don't you take a few moments, turn and greet each other, and then you can have yourselves a seat.
So just whatever that brought up for you, I just want you to hold on to that, and we're going to come back to it later at the end of this talk, okay? So whatever you're thinking about right now for you, just hang on to that, okay? So a couple weeks ago, as we launched this series, I threw out a couple of questions that I think we would all agree are really, really important that we answer these questions, or how we answer these questions. It's better that we do it sooner rather than later, because how we answer these questions really impacts all the areas of our life. And here's the questions I'm talking about. Remember this? These are important. What kind of person do you want to be, and what kind of life do you want to live? We got to figure that out, right? What kind of man or woman do I want to be, and then what kind of life do I want to live? And I bet that as you're kind of answering that question for you, or both those questions, somewhere in your answer is the word good. Right? I want to be a good man, or I want to be a good woman, I want to be a good husband, good dad, friend, whatever that is, and I want a good life, and me too, all right? So follow-up question would be this: what do you mean when you say good? What are you talking about when you say good? Like, what is it about a person that you would go, well, they're good because of that? Or what is it that you would point to like as the defining attribute that you would go, they have a good life? Well, how can you say that? Because of that, and that, all right? And here's a follow-up. And if either of those, if you're not a good person and you're not living a good life, how can you get good? How can you make it good? How can you become a good person? How can you live a good life? So as you're going through all those questions, most of the world would immediately point to certain behaviors that make you good or not good, or certain circumstances that happen in your life that say, well, my life is good or bad. And here's what the math we do in our head. If I do a lot of good things, then somehow I'm a good person. And if good things happen to me, mostly anyway, then I have a good life. And what we looked at last week was this: Jesus would say, if that's how you're going to do math and come up with the answers for whether you're a good person, have a good life or not, be careful. Jesus would actually say, whoa, woe to you. Like, pay attention to this, because you're putting yourself in a dangerous position. I'm not saying it's wrong or sinful, but you're in a really dangerous position, because with that kind of a mindset, you can jump to some really untrue and really devastating conclusions that go like this: if I do good things, enough good things, and at least more good things than bad things, then I am sure that I'm good with God. And if bad things happen in my life, then I can jump to this conclusion that God is not good with me, right? Because otherwise, why would this have happened? God must hate me. Now here's the thing: is most of us will look at that and go, I don't think that's true. Just because you do some good things, that doesn't make you a good person. And just because bad things happen in your life doesn't mean that God hates you, okay? But the truth is, that is how most of us live our lives, right? When we think about, anything that brings up where was God when that happened? That is what most of us believe. I must not be a good person, or God must not like me or care about me, or something like that. See, here's what I mean. What we do reveals what we really believe is really true. And let's just break it down. What we do, what the actions we take in our life, when we get up out of churches and go live, the next 6 days or something like that, what we do out there reveals what we really believe or have faith in that will work out there in the real world. It doesn't matter what you pray about or say in church or claim to believe. How you live your life actually reveals what you believe will stand up when life hits you. It's why our first response when something good happens to us, or something that we wanted to happen happens to us, our first card we throw on the table is, well, it must be good, or it must be God's will. Otherwise, why would it have happened? You can't, obviously God wanted that to happen, because otherwise, if God wanted it to happen, it wouldn't have happened, so it's good. Even though you look at the thing that's going on in your life, it has nothing to do with God. It's nothing even close to what we know God is true, but it must be God's will, because it happened. So we call it good. Or how about this? It's also our first response when something bad happens is we look at it and go, why would God do this to me? Right? Why would God cause, allow, fill in the blank there, that to happen? And then you do that math in your head and go, well, then what's wrong with me? Or what's wrong with God that this would happen to me? Which would explain a lot. It would explain why a lot of us, listen to my voice right now, if we haven't already, we're about that close to losing our faith. Because here's what we've done, is we've taken what's happened in our life and it's not good, and then we try to lay that beside a God who claims to be good and have them both make sense, and we can't. And we just want to just give up and go, let's see, it doesn't make sense. Ever ask this question? Why do good things, or why do bad things happen to good people? And why do good things happen to bad people? That doesn't make sense. And then we go, I don't get it. And we just want to walk away from the whole thing. By show of hands, and I can't see all the campuses around the world, right? But if you've ever asked that question, why do good things happen to bad people and bad things happen to good people? Can I see your hand? Okay, so join the club. Okay, and here's what I mean by that. You're in the club of human beings since the very first human being looked back at God and something happened in their life they didn't like or understand, and they looked back at God and went, huh? Right, you ever prayed that prayer? Dear Heavenly Father, huh? What you mean is, I don't understand you, and I don't like how this feels in my life. Now, so whatever came up for you in the song, I want you to hold on to that. And if you've ever had that question, why did that happen? And what does that make me? And what does that make God? And all that, right? I want you to just hold on to those because we'll come back to them at the end. And I want to pick up right where we left off last week in this opening words of this famous talk that Jesus gave about 2,000 years ago out on the side of a mountain, okay, in Israel. And he's surrounded by like a huge crowd of people. And the kind of people that he is surrounded by, we've looked at this a couple weeks ago, and if you've missed any of this, get online and watch it, okay? Because it's some of my favorite weeks we've ever done here at Flatirons. But the Hebrew word for the kind of people that surrounded Jesus, do you remember what they were called? The Anawim, okay? And Anawim is simply this. It's the term for an entire category of throwaway people. What do you mean throwaway people? People who had been rejected by religion, by society, by their family, by just about everybody, and then they assumed they've been kind of abandoned by God because their lives were hard and they were a mess. Therefore, they did the math in their head and went, I must be a bad person and God must hate me. And so in this context, Jesus shows up and goes, could I have your attention? Because times are changing. Things are going to be different from this point on. They used to be like this, but now I'm here and now new things are available to anybody who wants them. And just put a little bit of faith in me. How much does that take? I'm not in charge of that. But Jesus says, just put a little bit of trust and confidence in me, and here's what I will do. I will remove anything, any obstacle that would keep any Anawim, anybody on the planet, from bringing their life as it is. And that's really, really important. It's not clean up your life and stop doing this and get your marriage together and stop being addicted. I got to be careful. Last night I said stop being addicted, and I said it wrong, and people went like that. But stop being that too, all right? So stop being a jerk. I should have just kept going. Again, we should edit that out for online. But anyway, Stop trying to change anything first, but come as you are and accept his invitation to live a different kind of life with him. What kind of life? I love this. Look, a with God kind of life. Time out here, okay? Flatirons, I'm officially declaring that we are done with the idea that God is in a Disney castle in outer space waiting for us after we die, we go see him. We're done with that. He's not there. You know where he is? He's right here. He's with us. He's right here. He's like the air around your head. It's not someplace later for another place. God is right here. And Jesus says, bring all of your life and live it a with God kind of life in his kingdom. What is a kingdom? Where whatever he wants done is done. That's his kingdom. And experience Makarios. All right, Makarios, what do you mean? Blessing, a blessed kind of life. And with the opening words, what Jesus is saying is this. It is now possible for everyone to live the kind of life. What kind of life? A good one. The kind of life that is reserved only for those who live in the immediate presence of and the intimate connection to God and his kingdom, where what God wants done is actually done. You can live there. Bring all the parts of your life into his kingdom. Bring the not good. How about especially the not good parts? Bring the not good parts into his into his kingdom, and he'll turn them into something good. And so what we looked at last week is that the way that Jesus starts this talk out there in the middle of nowhere, I think, it's not by giving a list of rules and regulations. Do this more. I notice you're not doing that well. You got to shape that up and try harder to do this part of your life, and then you can be a part of my kingdom, and I'll bless you. It's not what he says. He starts with a list, and this is what we're going to work through today. He starts with the list of the kind of people that he puts at the top of his invitation list that nobody would have ever thought God would even care about them, especially the people on the list. And this is what's happening again to everybody listening to my voice, wherever you are in the world right now. You're sitting there going, I don't think God wants me. I think God might want her, Or God might want my grandma because she's decent, all right? But I know me, and I don't think that God wants me. And again, we're wrong. We're not bad, we're just wrong because we're holding on to something that's not true. So here's what Jesus does. He starts by looking around at this crowd, and it's a pretty rough crowd, and here's how he starts. He says, Makarios, which is that Greek word, blessing in connection to God is available to the who? Remember, this is what we talked about last week, the poor in spirit. What do you mean the poor in spirit? The people we know, there's nothing going on in here worth anything. We're not spiritual. We have people faked out. We know the Bible answers, stuff like that. But in terms of us and God right now, we just feel empty and broken and just spiritually bankrupt. He says, well, I'd like to start with you. Blessed are the ones that don't think they have anything that God would ever even consider important. Blessed are the Anawim. You can live your lives in the kingdom of heaven so that what God wants done could actually be done in your life, right? And this is what, again, and we'll move on here, but let me just go back to last week. If you're sitting here right now going, listen, I'm empty inside, and this is my last-ditch effort to try to connect with God and see if any of this stuff is real, I'm telling you, welcome. And what God would say to you right now is bring that emptiness and that void and take one step towards Him, and that spiritual void can start getting filled. And those wounds caused by other people or you've caused to yourself, they can begin to heal and change in the kingdom. But if you try to fix them outside the kingdom, it just won't work. Good luck. See, outside the kingdom, you got to figure it out. Are you enough? Are you good enough? Are you man enough? Are you strong enough? Are you rich enough? Are you enough for your family? Are you enough for your kids? Are you enough for your friends? And you know what? You'll never know, right? You're kind of on your own. But in the kingdom, Jesus says, let's just bring your mess in here, and with me, you can actually experience this thing called Makarios. So yesterday morning, I got this great email from a friend of mine. So last week, a guy named Darren was here at the Lafayette campus, I think, and he heard me teach about this whole Makarios and how we can live connected to God, and no matter who you are, He wants you to be in His kingdom. So right after that message, we work with this organization called Sozo International. We do a lot of work over in Afghanistan. He led a team, got on an airplane the next day, and he took a bunch of people, and right now they are in Afghanistan, and while he was there, he taught my sermon from last week on Makarios. It's plagiarism. I'm going to let it go. All right, but pray for Darren. All right, so anyway, but then he sends me this picture of this Afghan family. Look at this. So he teaches this family, and they sit there through translation, and see what she's holding there? Makarios. Now, I have no idea if this little Afghan family understands anything that we're talking about here today, but some seeds have been planted. And maybe this little girl one day is going to go, God wants me? Because the God I worship, I'm nothing. The God that I have to show up for, I'm a piece of property, like my mom was. And you're saying that this God, this Jesus person, He wants me to be a part of His world? Yeah, Makarios. So I don't know their names, but pray for them. God knows their names, okay? And pray for him because he scares me. He just does. That's judgmental. I'm sorry, but whoa. All right, he just scares me, all right? I feel like he's looking at me right now. All right, so anyway, let's move on quickly, all right? So now let me explain something, okay? Because I get emails about this all the time. Some of you have a problem with a couple things I say. Wow, can you narrow it down, Jim? All right, so a lot of times I'll sit up here and I'll say stuff like this. I don't know if this was what happened, but in my mind, it looked like this, okay? Now, I do that a lot. This is how my brain operates. I'm on meds. It's not working. Now, having said that, whenever I do that, I'm not changing what Jesus said. But what I've learned is that it's much easier for me to study the Bible if I'll stop seeing them as Bible people and just see them as real people facing things they never faced before, hearing from a God they didn't really think was like that, and all of a sudden He's just going to change everything. And so what I do is I go, if I was sitting there that day, what would I feel? And what would I see? And what would I smell? And what would be the noises? I use all my senses, and I put myself on that hill, and Jesus is sitting on that rock, and what would have been happening? So I can't prove this. I don't know if this is the way it happened, but in Jim world, this is what it looked like that day. I think Jesus says, blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. And then as he's scanning this crowd, he sees her, this lady, or this man, I don't know. But he notices that her eyes are really swollen and bloodshot because she's been crying for several days. And he just knows. You lost somebody, didn't you? Right? Right? You lost somebody you loved. Somebody that you loved died. And just go back, put yourself on that hill, all right? And maybe this is a person they've been married for 30 years, and they thought they would die first, and then he died, and now I don't know what to do with the next, decade of my. I don't know. Maybe it wasn't their spouse. So a lot of us have gone through this. Maybe she just came from the same doctor appointment that some of us have come from, where you go in for the checkup, but this time there's no heartbeat. Maybe she came out there to the mountain right from the doctor's office, going, "What am I going to do?" Some of you have had that happen to you. Or how about this? Maybe it's not that a person died. Maybe they just came from the biggest fight ever, and they realized, my marriage just died. My relationship with my son, it's dead and buried, and it ain't coming back. Anybody? How about this? Just because I hit a certain age, they retired me, and now my dream is dead. My hopes are dead. And how about this? This is my house. Have you ever been so depressed that no one dies, but it feels like it every day? Man, I just wish I was dead too. And again, I don't know how this happens, but in my mind, here's what Jesus does. He gets up off of that rock, and he walks over to that lady, and he bends down, and he takes his finger, and he puts it under her chin and goes, "Look at me." Because the Bible says that God is the lifter of our head. What's that mean? It means when we're looking down going, "I can't look at anything but the dirt." He goes, "Whoa, look at me. Look at me. You're going to be all right." What do you mean? So you can receive blessing. Blessed are those who mourn, for you'll be comforted in the kingdom. In the kingdom, you can receive comfort. All right, and it's the only kind of comfort that will actually comfort, because there are some things in your life that are actually so bad that the comfort you need has to come from like a God level, because nothing else will comfort. Anybody been there? Yeah. So a few weeks ago, I was asked to perform a memorial service for a man that a lot of us know has been in this church for a long, long, long time. His name is Gary Goodnow, and he had a heart attack, died in his sleep, and So a couple days later, his wife Nan, who's a dear friend, she says, "Jim, will you just speak at this memorial service?" I went, "Of course. What do you want me to do?" She goes, "I just want you to talk about Jesus." I went, "I can do that. I like him a lot." All right, and so I can talk about Jesus. And she says, "Heads up, I have the spectrum in my family: people that love Jesus and people who hate Jesus, people who are really into him and people who want nothing to do with him. So just know, I just want you to talk about Jesus." I'm like, "Nan, I got this." And so here at Lafayette, at the other end of this building, on that day, I walk up on the stage and I said, "Okay, I just have a question." And my question goes like this: what's the difference between a memorial service for a person who dies in the kingdom and a memorial service for somebody who dies outside the kingdom? What's the difference? And here's the only answer that I could come up with. See, in the kingdom, when somebody dies, right, you don't lose them. Can I just say, can we stop using that phrase, "I lost dad"? Listen, my dad died 5 years ago, this past January. I didn't lose him. I know exactly where he is. He's more found than ever. He's fine. He's fine. You know what? He doesn't have cancer anymore. He's healed. He's good, all right? In the kingdom, he found healing. In the kingdom, I have a promise. My first priority when I get to heaven is I'd like to see Jesus. That would be the first priority. And then I want to go, there's my dad. I get to see him. I want to see him. I have that promise in the kingdom. So I could actually announce with joy, Gary's fine. And we get to see him again, right? That's called hope. Now, outside the kingdom, not so much. See, outside the kingdom, when somebody dies, they just die. They're just gone. And this is going to be really, really hard teaching, so buckle up and just hear me out, okay? You don't have to agree with me, but I want you to rethink some things in your life, all right? See, when somebody dies, all right, it makes a really, really, really emotional, sentimental song. When somebody dies, they don't become an angel. That's not in the Bible. They don't become a cloud floating around on the universe. They don't become an eagle, and every time you see that eagle, that's my grandpa. No, it's not. It's an eagle. It's not, all right? And so here's what when somebody dies, you're trying to hold on to a memory, but we all know, for those of us who have lost people that we love, the memories start fading and we panic and going, I'm trying to remember his face, I'm trying to remember his voice, and it's starting to fade. And so you do these desperate things, like on their birthday, you write them a message on Facebook that you've kept open because you want to keep connection. And it's just sad. It's just, I'm not throwing stones at it. I know what we're trying to do there, but it just is sad. And outside the kingdom, You're on your own. And I get asked this all the time, all right? And this is one of the sucky parts of being a pastor, is that somebody, especially people that are kind of on the front end of their whole journey with Jesus, they'll say, so Pastor Jim, so my mom or my grandpa or my brother or my whatever, my friend, they died, and I don't know if they were a Christian. I don't think they were a Christian. Or my dad committed suicide. Is that an automatic ticket to hell? Where are they? And here's the question behind the question. I'm looking into this Jesus guy, but what he says about, what it takes to have salvation and what it takes to, be connected to him, all right? If I believe that, then that feels like I condemn my dad to hell. And I don't want to do that. So Jim, where's my friend? Where's my mom? Where's my dad? Here's the answer. So if you ask me this sometime, this is the answer that you're going to get, all right? And you probably think it's a cop-out, but it's the best one I can come up with. I look back and going, wow, that is above my pay grade. File that away because that's the best answer. That's way out of my realm of responsibility. Here's what I do know, that the person that died that you loved is in the hands of a really loving God who has all the information, including the stuff that you don't know, and he knows what was going on in that person's heart and in their mind that you will never have access to. So how about this? Let's leave the person that you loved to a God who loves them more than you and will do the right thing. The just thing, the fair thing, because he loves them so much. And then I don't stop there. I put a but. It's a big one, right? But what about you? What about you? See, we can speculate and we can leave this person into the hands of a really good, loving, trusting, gracious God, but you don't have to wonder, what if I died? You can know. You can know for yourself. You can tell the people around you, hey, Mom, I'm fine. Jesus and I are fine. So when that phone call comes, everybody's going, take a breath. We're going to be okay. You don't have to wonder. You can know in the kingdom. Now, I'm going to tell you something that's going to probably disappoint you and me more than you already are, because it sounds so unspiritual. I don't want to die. Sorry. I hear these people stand up there and going, I just like to be gone and just be with Jesus right now today. I don't. Listen, if I die today, I'm going to be with Jesus. It's going to be great, stuff like that. I have some stuff I'd like to do later today before I die. I have 6 grandkids. I would love to watch them grow up. I would love them to come over to the house today. They'll run TV. But anyway, I want them. I have 6 grandkids. I'd like to have 8 grandkids if my kids are listening. Pay attention to that, all right? I want more of that. I want to do some more stuff with Robin. There's more life I want to live. But, okay, let me just say this. If you find out later today or tomorrow, something like that, that I didn't have a good day, and did you hear Pastor Jim died? Listen, here's what I want you to do. Cry a little bit. I'll give you that. It's all right. I get it. All right. But how about this? All right. Don't worry about me. I'm fine. Let's all get together and have a party, stuff like that, because that's what I'll be doing. I'll be with Jesus, and then there's my dad over there, right? And I'll be waiting on most of you. I'll just be honest, all right? And so when we all get to heaven, we'll have this great party. But please, here's my last will and testament. It goes like this. Write this down. Don't Facebook me. I will unfriend you from heaven. Don't, all right? Don't. I will not be checking social media. I've got better things to do, okay? So there's that. Now, I'm trying to lighten it up a little bit because here's something really, really heavy, okay? Whether you're a Christian or not. Everybody's got to deal with death. None of us get out of this world without facing death. Everybody in our life that we love, if we live longer than them, we will face their death. We'll face our own deaths. It's just reality. So everybody has to deal with death, whether you're a Christian or not. But here are the options available to you. How about this? You can deal with death in the kingdom with Jesus, or you can deal with death outside the kingdom on your own, but you still have to deal with it. You still have to deal with cancer and car wrecks, and she didn't come home, and he cheated on me and all that. You have to do that with Jesus or without Jesus, but you still have to do it. And it just seems better to me that whatever this life is going to come at you, we're going to look at some of those things in just a minute, it's better with Jesus. But let me just talk about death. See, in the kingdom, death is the least of our worries. We don't have to worry about it. We can be sad about it. We can miss people. That honors them, I think, when we miss them, all right? But we don't have to live in fear anymore. And what Jesus says is this: a Makarios with God in the kingdom kind of life is available to everybody who wants it with a little bit of faith. And if that's true, you might want to rethink how you see and think about death and mourning, because it doesn't have to be hopeless anymore. Does that make sense? You're going to be fine. You're going to be all right. Let's don't stop. Let's keep going with this, all right? So this is probably my least favorite of the Beatitudes. I don't know if you're allowed to say that, but I just did, all right? So here it is. Ready? Blessed are the who? Did anybody put that in their yearbook? Someday I'd like to be voted most meek. Anybody? No, because when we hear meek, we hear weak. I'm out. I don't want to be that, okay? So maybe it doesn't mean that. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. So let's look at that word meek real quick, all right? In all my life, I've heard it and I've taught it, and I think that this passage of the Sermon on the Mount, I'm getting it more right, all right? I'm sure there's a lot I have to learn yet, but I always heard this word meek, which I think is weak. Maybe it was translated gentle, which I think is a kind of an attempt to preserve our dignity. You're not weak, but you're gentle. Again, dude, that's not helpful. What a gentle man. Thanks. All right. But so I've also heard this, all right? I'm just speaking for all the dudes in the room, right? But gentle can be translated this way. It gets better. Strength under control. I can get on board with that. And the Greek word that is gentle, strength under control, Greek words have like pictures that go with them. And the picture is this mighty like racehorse, like this stallion under the control of his rider. And I think that's a noble picture. I can get on board with that. I'm sure that a strong person under the control of God's leadership, they're going to experience blessing. Absolutely. I don't think that's what Jesus is talking about. It's true, but I don't think that's what it's talking about. Why? Because remember this phrase? Context is king. All right, and who's Jesus talking to? Elohim, all right? He's not rattling off a list of the noble qualities he sees in the crowd that day. No, these are Elohim. These are people going, you know what? I'm a throwaway person. I am convinced that I don't matter, that nobody really cares about me. I don't think I'm strong, let alone under control. I'm a mess. I don't think Jesus is going, you know, as I look around this hill, I notice it's over there, there's a lot of people with strength under control. Way to go. Bless you. I don't think that's what he's saying at all. I'm going to give it a pass, all right? How about this? Blessed are the invisible people. Blessed are the people who have no voice or don't think anybody cares about what they have to say. How about blessed are the people who never speak up for themselves, ask for what they want or what they need. Blessed are the shy ones. Blessed are the ones who live every day in fear. Blessed are the people who blame themselves for all the problems of the world. Somehow it's my fault, and I deserve it. I don't deserve anything good to happen to me because of what happened to me or what I did or where I come from or what my mom did or my dad, whatever that is. And here's what I think. In context, I can't prove this, but I think when Jesus went, blessed are the meek, they went, what? Well, I've never put those two words together. Blessed are the invisible. No. Why were we blessed? Because if you'll stop and bring your meek status, even if it's self-imposed, and put that in the kingdom, you will inherit everything. What do you mean? I don't know. If you need the earth, he'll give that to you, if that's what you need. You can experience Makarios from your Father. He'll make sure you have everything you need in the kingdom. Outside, let me just talk to the meek people. You're a doormat, and you're always going to be a doormat because you've accepted that's all you are. Inside, Jesus says, why don't you rethink that and bring whatever it is that makes you think that I'm just this and begin to see it differently and then bring it into the kingdom, because into the kingdom, you're not a doormat. You're an heir of God. You're an heir of God who says, what do you need? I will supply everything you need, up to and including the earth. That's better than a doormat. So you might want to rethink everything. How about this one? I like this one. Well, good. I'm glad you like it. Listen, blessed are those who hunger and thirst for, what's that word? That's a really important word, all right? So blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be satisfied. And we're going to spend a lot of time in a couple weeks on that word righteousness, but in context, let me just kind of tell you really quick what that means. And as soon as I start describing it, you're going to go, oh, I understand hunger and thirst for righteousness. When Jesus says hunger and thirst for righteousness, he's talking about that thing going on like right here that just is eating you alive. It's that thing that you take a lot of Tums over. It's that thing that's going to give you an ulcer. It's like when you're really, really hungry, and it's just gnawing and stuff like that. And it wants something to fill it up. What it wants is, I want things to be right. You know what I'm talking about? There's something inside you that's going, I want this to be made right, and it's not right. And it may be something inside of you, like there's a lot of us, we carry so much just guilt and shame over what we've done in our past. And we're Christians, and we know it's forgiven because we put our faith in Jesus. We just can't get over it. We beat ourselves up. We have an ulcer about what we did. God is done with it. He's buried it, all right? We just keep on resurrecting it back every single day, and it's just not right. We're trying to make it right, but every day this is all we think about. How about this? This is going to hit home, all right? So a lot of us, we have this thing going on inside of us. It's this anger that we try to keep it from exploding, but we don't do it very well. But what really triggers it is when we see something happening around us in the world to somebody else, or when anybody does it to us, and our first response is, that's not right. That's wrong. That's unjust. That's not fair. And probably the reason, I should probably use I language here, but I'm going to use us, all right? The reason that brings up so much energy in us is when we see that happen to her or him or something like that, it reminds me of what happened to me, and nobody did anything. Let me feel that, right? Like when I see that happen, to what's happening to him or her, it just reminds me of what my dad did, or my mom did, or my uncle did, or my brother did, or my babysitter did, or whatever that is, and nobody did anything, and I'm mad, right? It's what happened to me, and it wasn't my fault. I didn't do anything wrong. I just happened to be this age, or this gender, or this race, or I had this income, and all of a sudden, because of that, people decided this ought to happen to me, and it's not right. And something needs to happen. It's wrong. What happened to me at work? What happened to me at school? Somebody do something. Nobody's doing anything, and it's not fair, and somebody needs to do something. Somebody needs to fix this. Somebody needs to pay them back. They deserve to pay for what they did, and I volunteer. I'll make it right, and so we try. We try. I'll fix this. You slap me on this cheek. We'll get to this in a few weeks. You slap me on this cheek. I'll punch you on that cheek. And you know what happens? Nothing. It works for about 5 minutes. We took her out of the knees because she took us out of the knees. We said something mean to her because he said something mean to me. We paid them back. We hurt them worse than they hurt us. And then we go, that did it, for about 5 minutes. And then it comes right back, doesn't it? Because we're not satisfied. We're hungry. And we're looking for something else. And so we go looking for something else. Jesus says this. This is a hard teaching. Jesus says that there are some things in this world that are going to happen to us that are so horrific and devastating. He said, in this world you will have trouble. And then they nailed him to a cross. So he has some credibility here, right? He says, there's some things that are going to happen that are so painful and so wrong and so unfair. There is no word. There is no magic phrase. There's nothing that anybody could do to make that right, or even the score, or there's nothing anybody can do that would explain it to you and you'd go, oh, now you put it that way, I'm fine. I'm okay with it. I'm actually glad it happened, what happened to my daughter or my son or my... Well, no. I think it's absolutely ridiculous, and I don't believe it comes from God. I don't. Even though, and I want to talk to Christians because we got to tune some stuff up here, right? Why is it, Christians, that when something bad happens to us or somebody else, and I think it comes from a good place, we're trying to actually help, but we say the worst thing. Somebody gets hurt. There's a car wreck. Somebody loses a baby or something like that. And we show up, and here's what we say. I guess it was just God's will. Write this down. Shut up. In Jesus' name. I really mean that. Stop saying, how do you know? The cancer it's just God's will. The car wreck, the miscarriage, that was just God's will. Way above your pay grade. How do you know? Are you tapped into some divine connection? We're going, let me explain to this, okay? So one time, all right, I'm fired up. All right, so one time some people came to Jesus, tried to back him in a corner and go, hey, Jesus, over in Siloam, this tower fell over and crushed all those people. Were they bad? Why'd that crush them? Explain yourself. And another time, there's these people in the temple worshiping God, and they were good people. And maybe my daughter was one of them, so I know that they were good people, all right? And then these bad people came in, and they shot up the place like a school. They murdered everybody. Why'd that happen? Why? Was God trying to punish them? Were there bad things going on there? Hey, God, explain yourself why bad things happen to obviously good people. And you know what Jesus said back to him? Nothing. And I assume because he's Jesus, he knows the answer. But is there anything in certain parts of your life that are so painful and devastating? Is there anything that even Jesus could say and go, let me tell you why that happened, that would make you feel better? So he doesn't even waste his breath. He actually uses it and goes, I'd like to ask you a more important question than why did that happen to those people? What if the tower fell on you? Oh. What if you'd been in that temple that day and you got murdered? What comes next for you? You don't need to worry about that. Let's talk about about you. See, Jesus knows. Again, Jesus knows that things are going to happen in our life to the most important parts and the people we love the most. And there's nothing that can be said or done that will make us okay with it. So our options are live angry and hungry and thirsty. And here's what will happen, all right? It will just spill over into everything. Or bring that unrighteous, bad thing into the kingdom of God and live it with God. And Jesus says, eventually, probably not today, maybe not even later this afternoon, but if you'll take this thing that happened and bring it and live it with me, eventually, I promise, you can be satisfied. I'm good. I'm good. It's not right. I still hate it happen, but I don't have to carry this around and have it own me anymore. And that word satisfied, it means like fed. That part of your life is going to be fed. And it's more than fed. It's not just with breadcrumbs. Satisfied here means this, fed until it's full and satisfied. There's actually a part going, you know what? I'm good. I'm full. I'm Thanksgiving full. That kind of full. What would you call a life that the worst thing happened in your life, but now you're able to, from that point on, with God, live a life that is fully full and satisfied? I don't know. I'm going to throw it out there. How about Makarios? But what about what happened? I know it's horrible. It's not fair. Somebody ought to do something. But until they do, live it with him in the kingdom. So here's the thing about this opening Beatitudes, and we're going to finish them up next week. Jesus is not giving a list of conditions to meet in order to be blessed. Do this more. I mean, this is how silly. Here's what the takeaway for the application. I need you to go out there and be meeker. More and more. You're not mourning enough. You need to more and more, and then maybe you'll experience. It's silly, all right? He's not saying change this, stop this, do more of this. That's religious legalism. That's what all these people and a lot of us have been raised in. What Jesus is addressing and dismantling is some of the conclusions and the messages that we all live with about ourselves and about God and about what happened to us and what that must mean and who we are and what we're worth. And it's all based on what we've done or what's been done to us or the circumstances of our life. And then we look at it going, I don't see how that could ever be fixed, so I'm not even going to try to fix it. We put up a white flag and go, that's it. And then we don't have any hope. And this is where a lot of us are stuck right now. It just feels overwhelming. And what Jesus does, he says, I'm going to call a timeout. You have it backwards. I'm not telling you to change anything. Here's what I'm teaching you. He says this, a Makarios life is available to anyone. What's the next three words? In spite of your circumstances. He doesn't say a Makarios life is available if you'll change your circumstances. Work on it. Fix it. No. He says, listen, before you do any of that, how about how you bring your circumstance to me, and then by trusting that Jesus is who he says he is and can do what he promises to do, that's the definition of faith, we're going to be okay. Now, here's the other thing. Don't try to figure out how Jesus is going to make that okay. Again, above our pay grade. All right? I don't know how you're going to fix this marriage. I don't even think you're going to do it. Jesus says, I didn't ask you to figure it out. I asked you to trust me. I don't know how I can get over what happened to the person I love the most. I didn't ask you to figure that out. I asked you to trust me. Because I think we could all agree with this, is that if anyone can do it and anything can change in the part of your life you're thinking about right now, it will be with Jesus in his kingdom. Otherwise, we would have already done it. Right? So, you might want to rethink some stuff. Right? So, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to end with some questions. And I'm going to do this every week, all right? For a couple reasons. One is, over the last month in here, at Flatirons, somewhere between 4,000 and 5,000 of us decided to take a step. It's a really courageous step to leave a row and join a circle. Now, here's why that's so important. Everybody here is kind of listening to what I'm saying right now, except that guy over there is asleep. I see you. All right, but everybody else, I don't see anybody. Well, maybe I do. Here's what you're going to do. I'm going to think about that this week. But you're going to get out of here, and life's going to get busy, and the kids got this going, and you got school tomorrow, and you got this and that, and blah, 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 blah. And you're not. And you're going to file this away, and it's one more thing that goes on the pile of stuff I need to think about someday, but who has time? So here's what I would encourage you to do. When you get up from here, if you're not in a group, online later tonight, there will be a list of questions for you to go through. Just go through them on your way to work tomorrow or something like that. That's one thing. If you want to do something better, get somebody maybe that's here with you today and say, well, you go through these with me. But here's the truth. We covered some really heavy stuff today. The thing that breaks your heart that you cannot get past, the thing that eats your lunch every day because you're just angry and it's not right and it's not fair, and so you're just like, I'm just going to be a bitter person for the rest of my life, I guess, all right? And so you can work on that by yourself to a certain degree, and certainly with God, but something happens when you join a circle. And you get with some other people and you go, do you understand what I'm talking about? Or has anybody felt what I've felt? And then, because a lot of times, let's be honest, we feel like we're the only one going through some stuff. And nobody understands. And somehow that makes us bad. And then, remember when you first got married and you had a fight and you thought, oh, we've been married a week, this is going to last a month, and we're getting a divorce. And then you found, remember that? Somebody going, yes. Don't look straight ahead, right? And then you found out that other couples had fights and you were like, yes. I'm so glad other people are mean to each other too. Maybe there's hope for us, okay? What I mean is this, is that in a circle you go, I'm not alone in this. Will you do this with me? So it's not too late to get in a circle. We've been doing it for 2 weeks now, 3 weeks now, all right? So stop at your lobby or get online and say, hey, listen. And there's groups all over the world forming. I mean, there's one in China. That's great, So, but if you want to do that. So I want to give you some questions for you to work through individually, or this is what we're going to do in groups this week, is this. All right, let me set it up. So you have circumstances going on in your life, good or bad, and because of that, you have judgments about yourself or other people. And what Jesus said was this, is that the person who looks at themselves in the mirror and goes, you are spiritually a mess, you're empty, you're bankrupt, you have nothing to offer God whatsoever, you can actually experience a Makarios, like blessed kind of life, if you'll start living that broken, messed up part of your life with God in his kingdom. So my question, and you know how deep or shallow your relationship is with God? Nobody else does. That's between you and God. And you know how it's impacted the different parts of your life. And if you're like me, you carry a lot of shame around that because you should be better than this. But you're not. So based on all that, what is the message going through your head right now about what you deserve from God? If you were God, this is what I'd do to you. What do you say about yourself? What kind of man does that? What kind of woman does that? And then what are the judgments? Well, if I was God, here's what I would do to me. And what would you like to see change? Right? Next, Jesus just said the kind of person who lives their life overwhelmed with loss and grief and sadness and depression and loneliness can experience comfort if they will allow Jesus to walk with them, I'll use another Bible verse, through the valley of the shadow of death. So my question is this, what might Jesus be telling you right now would be possible? Or what difference would it make? Or what difference could it make if you brought whatever it is that you are mourning over? It just feels like death. What if you brought it into his kingdom and said, Jesus, will you walk through death with me? This has kept my family alive. So I'm just going to throw this in here. We'll go long. I don't care. So 11 years ago, so we moved out here from Kentucky 12 years ago. And I always heard this was a Me Too kind of place and that you can tell your whole story here and you just put it all out there and you don't get a lot of stones or judgment. But I've been raised in church and that just doesn't happen where I come from. But, we decided to test the waters. And so I was doing this series called Welcome to the Jungle. Oh, yeah, all right. So I've been doing this a long time. But anyway, and so I picked out an animal, and it was lion. Sometimes you go hunting for lions, and sometimes the lions come hunting for you. I didn't look for this problem, but it hunted me down. And at my house, that's called depression. And my wife did the bravest thing I've ever seen anybody do. I don't know if she'd do it in a multi-campus thing like this, something like that. But across the street from where I'm standing in a little feed store, she stood up there and she said, for the last 30 years, I have been bipolar, manic depressive, have migraine headaches almost every day, and I have a seizure disorder. And I have begged God to heal me. And he said no. Anybody ask God for help and it just feels like he went no? Yeah. But, so there's not a period there, right? But he did say that my grace is enough and sufficient for you. And when you're weak, Robin, I'll take care of you. You're going to go through depression with or without him. Robin says, I'm going with him. And here's what that looks like at my house. There are some days when Robin has tried everything, and so many Christians have given her the worst advice. If you had more faith and prayed a prayer of faith, shut up. She said, I've done everything I know to do. And sometimes I just lay down on the couch and I'm just done. I don't have one more prayer left in me. And I lay there and I moan. And the Holy Spirit takes my groanings to the Father and says, this is what's going on. And Jesus shows up and wraps his arms around me on the couch and holds me together. And that's the only reason why I haven't ended my own life. Anybody feel like that? Blessed are those who mourn if you'll bring whatever that is into his kingdom and let Jesus lay on the couch with you. Sometimes that's the only thing that keep you alive some days, right? Let's move on. So Jesus said that blessed is the person who feels like you don't have a voice because nobody cares, so shut up. Nobody wants to hear about your problems. And by the way, your problems are all your own fault. But you can actually begin to live your life in the kingdom of God. He's your Father, and He will look at you and go, I will make sure you have what you need, up to and including the earth. So let me ask you this question. What would change if you were absolutely confident, and that confident is the same word as faith, that Jesus will keep His promise to walk through this day and every day in the future with you? Would it make any difference if you know you don't have to go home to an empty apartment today by yourself? You don't have to go home to an empty marriage today by yourself, because Jesus says, I'll go through that with you, and I'll make sure that the good I want done will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Let me give you one more, okay? Jesus said this, that in this world you will have trouble. Things will happen to you that are unfair and unjust, and it's just not right, and they're gonna attack it, and there'll be something from inside of you, and it'll say it's a good place. You're going, I wanna make that right, and I want an explanation, and we won't get it. And it will leave you hungry and thirsty inside. And there's nothing wrong with wanting justice. God actually says, hey people, my people, seek justice. Seek justice when you see somebody that's being treated unfairly. You need to go try to make that right. But God also knows you're going to try to make justice come, and it's not going to come. And here's what's going to happen. You're going to get really frustrated and angry about what happened to you, and nobody even seemed to care about it, but it won't stay right there. It will spill over onto your marriage or onto your kids, or you'll try to medicate it or whatever that is to say it doesn't matter, but it does matter, and it's ruining every part of your life. And you're thinking about it right now. So what is one thing or area of your life that right now you would say, this isn't right? It's not just, it's not fair, I can't fix it, and it's eating me up on the inside. Is it possible? Would you consider trying to pray a prayer that goes something like this? God, I've done all that I know to do, so from this point on, I am, what's the word? So I'm not a victim of my circumstances. In the kingdom, we're not victims. I'm gonna make a choice, I'm choosing, right, to trust that what you want to be done will be done, even though I don't understand how you're gonna do it. That's fair. Would that bring any level of relief or healing, or I'll just use his word, satisfaction? Just think about it. So here's how we're going to close. We're going to close different today. So we have a song that the band is going to play at all of our campuses. I was given to this song by a dear friend of mine who's going through another divorce. Okay? And he's just devastated. It's not fair, it's not right, it's not just. Right? But it is going to happen. He gave me this song. So here's what happens in our lives, all right? Things happen to us, we do things wrong, and we jump to conclusions and definitions about ourselves and about God and what must be true about us based on that. And we're wrong. Only God is in charge of saying you're good. Only God is in charge of saying you have value. And He says, listen, I'll tell you who you are. And all that other stuff, that noise, it's just noise. You come to me and I'll tell you who I am. So the band is going to play this song right now. I just want you to listen and let it, whatever God brings to you, that's what He wants to talk to you about. And then at the end of it, we're going to turn it into a worship song. And just see what Jesus wants to bring you today, okay? So God, that song we sang earlier, I don't know what the writer was thinking or who he had in mind, but I do know that this song is all about you and who you say we are. But God, it gets so confusing in this world when things happen to us, or when we begin to think things and believe things and feel things that just don't make sense and they don't line up with what you say is true. And so we have to come back and go past what we feel or what other people have said to us and go, God, who do you say I am? Because I'll believe that. Not because I feel like it, but because it's true, because you're God. And you say that you want me in your life, and so I want to be in your life. I need you in my life. And so God, in these next few minutes and through this whole week, will you just remind us in those darkest moments how much you love us, how much you care about us, and how much you want to be with us in this life, all made possible because of Jesus. It's in His name I pray. Amen.
I keep fighting voices in my mind that say I'm not enough. Every Am I more than just the sum of every high and every low? Remind me once again just who I am, because I need to know. Oh, you say I am loved when I can't feel a thing. You say I am strong when I think I am weak. You say I am held when I am falling short, and when I don't belong. Oh, you say I am yours, and I believe. Oh, I believe what you say of me. I believe. The only thing that matters now is everything you think of me. In you I find my worth, in you I find my identity. Oh, you say I am loved when I can't feel a thing. You say I am strong when I think I am weak. You say I am held when I am falling short, and when I don't belong. Oh, you say I am yours, and I believe. Oh, I believe what you say of me. I believe. Taking all I have, and now I'm laying it at your feet. You have every failure, God. You'll have every victory. Would you guys stand and sing this with me? You say I'm loved when I can't feel a thing. You say I am strong when I think I am weak. You say I am held when I am falling short, and when I don't belong. Oh, you say I am yours. You say I am loved when I can't feel a thing. You say I am strong when I think I am weak. You say I am held when I am falling short, and when I don't belong. Oh, you say I am yours, and I believe. Oh, I believe what you say of me. I believe. Oh, I believe. Yes, I believe what you say of me. I believe. Oh, we love you guys so much. Thank you for coming. Thank you for worshiping with us. If you guys feel like God's laid something on your heart, we have our prayer team down here in the front. They would love to pray with you guys. We love